Thank you. It is great to be back at the Kennedy Center, especially great because I don't have to really do much talking. I'll wrap this up in 60 seconds and turn it over. It's my privilege today to introduce Major General retired Julio De Amo from the Brazilian Army. He recently retired. In fact, this last March, retired from a distinguished military career that began at, I already forgot how to say it, Águias Negras Military Academy. Hopefully I said that semi-correctly, the largest military school in Brazil. In addition, he received international training. He was at the U.S. Army War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania for a year during his career, and also completed the UN Force Commander course in Berlin, Germany. General Julio also served as a UN military observer in Angola, and he currently resides in Resende, Brazil, where he is establishing a Center for Teamwork and Leadership Capacitation, which trains teams and companies and organizations to achieve their goals. One of his notable distinctions in my opinion, is that he was the team coordinator for the first Brazilian defense white paper. In 2012, Brazil published their first non-classified white paper, first ever publishing paper, and he was team leader on that, putting that together. And also, I work on the Beyond the Border film project, series project here with the Kennedy Center, and our 10th film is on Brazil, about the frontier and its relations with its neighbors. And so I was fortunate to meet General Julio a few months ago in relation to that, and we look forward to working with him on that project. So at this time, I'll turn the time over to General Julio.
Oh, I just want to say thank you for coming here today, and you're gonna bear to listen my English during probably 1 hour. It's not so good English, so be patient. And really, it's a great opportunity for me to be here today. I recognize the importance of this center as a think tank organization. And I also recognize the importance of you, because you were here, and you probably will be the next world leaders in terms of international relations. So it's great to have you here and to talk a little bit more of South America. We have some Brazilians here, and it's a special pleasure for me, really, to be here. Okay, we're gonna jump for the next. We're gonna try to follow this summary, the introduction that we are doing now, a short review on South America. We are going to see South America through trying to show you some physical features, because I think it's important to understand the space there, and then to understand the people who lives there inside South America. So we're gonna see some physical features, and then we're gonna talk about Brazilian policy towards South America, how Brazil sees South America today. And then we're gonna make a conclusion. That's our plan. For today, we have about 30 to 40 minutes to do that. We're gonna try to follow. Well, this is the land we are talking about. At the first glance, we can see a huge green area in the middle, which is the rainforest, Amazon rainforest. And on the west part of the land, we see a long and thin chain of mountains. This is the Alpine Mountains, the Andes. And also we can see the Amazon Basin and River Plate Basin. And we see that South America is linked with Central America. This has a very important meaning. There is probably a trend to consider South America as the yard of the Americas. But I think it's not a good way to treat South America, because we are talking about 6.8 million square miles of land, and about 400 million people living there. It's a huge, we could say it's a continent. So people there I think it's very important for you to understand the feeling of the people in South America, because people there are, in fact, really sensitive. They are humble, they are religious people, and they are always willing to help you if you ask for some help. But they are very sensitive. If you say something ironically to them, they're gonna keep inside as a repressed feeling. But the people are, I think it's the richest thing that we have in South America is the people. And they are nice persons. And some of you probably is gonna get some assignment in South America, maybe. And I think it's very important to understand that. I think the best word to define South America is diversity. And dealing with know how to deal with diversity is very important. It's a different paradigm. You can use the same paradigm because South America is different. And you have to understand that if you are going there, to work there. Here are some physical features that you probably know in South America. Strait of Magellan, Falkland Island, or Malvinas Islands, Angels Falls, Aconcagua, Atacama, Cape Horn, Andes Mountains. And I think they are famous, you know about that. Oh, sorry. Here, another view of Atacama Desert, the Moon Valley, Machu Picchu, Rio, and some landscapes of South America, the rainforest. And let's talk about the rainforest. I think it's important to understand. Rainforest, it's huge. And the rainforest is, the Amazon rainforest includes not only Brazil, but Bolivia, Peru, Colombia, Suriname, Guyana, Guyana, all the countries that has rainforest. And Bolivia, of course, and most of the Amazon rainforest is in Brazil. And here, some more information about the North region. It's a low-dense population, but if you go through the jungle, you can find people living there along the rivers. So, despite being a low-populated area, you can find people there if you go inside the jungle. And about 20% of all the biodiversity of the world, and where the most of Brazilians indigenous are living right now. It's about 250,000 Indians living in the Amazon region nowadays. Oh, sorry. The Andes, it's another physical features that calls our attention in South America. Because the Andes, they worked as an obstacle for the Spanish colonization. So the Spanish people, they couldn't go inside the middle of the continent because there was a huge wall of mountains. So the mountains kept the Spanish people along the west coast. Here's another view of the mountains. And some Spanish explorers, they could turn around the Cape Horn and take care of the lands in Patagonia, where Argentina is right now, and also Paraguay and Bolivia. They used the River Plate Basin to enter in the middle of the land. You know him, Mr. Carl? Yeah, he chose South America to put his house. But Angels Falls was the land that he chose. But the problem is that the country is not doing so good today. You heard about the area, and there is a huge lack of food. And we hope Mr. Carl can be happy there. Well, let's talk about a little about history to understand South America. About 494, the two superpowers of the world at that time, Spain and Portugal, they decided to split the world. And they drew a line, a meridian, and all the lands to the west was about to be part of Spain, and all the lands at the east to Portugal. So it's a Tordesillas Strait. It's very important to understand why the strait conducted the process of occupation in South America. So the Spanish colonization was huge. From the north to the south, they take all the lands to the west of the continent. And Brazil was a Portuguese colonization. So all the lands to the east, the Portuguese Empire took over. Here's one idea. The Spanish colonization was driven towards fragmentation. And the Portuguese colonization was driven towards union. This idea is important, and we can just see some factors for fragmentation of the Spanish area. And the Spanish Empire was organized in viceroyalties. And when Napoleon, in the Peninsular War, imprisoned the King of Spain, the viceroyalties claimed for self-government because, they call under the principle of retroversion of sovereignty. So the strong autocratic governments led to a breakup of these nations. So we have all the Spanish countries right now. We have 18 Spanish-speaking countries. And in Brazil was a little different. When Napoleon was trying to conquer Portugal during the Peninsular War, the king of Portugal, he had to run away from Napoleon. So the king was with his family. They came to Brazil, and this was very important for Brazilian development, because Brazil was not a Portuguese colony. Brazil was promoted to the center of the Portuguese Empire. So the king and his family, they brought a lot of good things for the country at that time, like universities, factories, and also a strong and central government. So it was possible for Brazil to keep united and not fragmented. Most of the people think that Buenos Aires is the capital of Brazil, and we speak Portuguese. But I'm gonna tell you the truth. Brasilia is the capital of Brazil, and we speak Portuguese. Of course, we have another, most of the region speaks Spanish, and there is also here Guyana and Suriname and French Guiana. They speak French here. You know that? Brazil has border with France. That's the reason that Brazil has a special treatment with France in terms of strategic relations with France. And here is the capital, in fact, of Brazil was Rio till 1960, and the capital was moved to the center, to the middle of the country. So Brasilia now is the capital. It's a new capital, and for geopolitical reasons, and also to bring more development to the middle of the country. Sorry. The continent is highly urbanized. You can see cities like São Paulo, Rio, and Buenos Aires, huge cities with a lot of people living there. You see São Paulo with almost 20 million people. And of course, this is also a social problem, a huge social problem. Because behind the big cities, you have the slums. And it's a hard contrast to see the slums and the big cities. And in the slums, you can find a lot of problems you heard about. It's drug trafficking, trafficking of weapons, and all kinds of illegal activities. And it's really hard to see how they grow fast. This is a phenomenon in South America, and we have to deal with this. Just to talk about a little, in Rio, the armed forces are now, they are taking care of part of one big slum, Favela da Maré, and we had a soldier killed last week by one gang. And right now in Brazil, there is a social convulsion about this killing. And it's hard to know, but we have to face this problem. Just to have an idea of size of South America, just a comparison. And another thing I think it's important to know that South Americans can, we know that in the 21st century, probably the fresh water is going to be a source of conflict. We're hearing or listening a lot about that. And it's good to know that in South America, you have huge reserves of fresh water underground. Alter do Chão and Guarani Aquifer are both huge reserves of water, of fresh water. And South America can be the solution for the world in this century. If the fresh water really runs out, we can have a solution in South America. Another point, as a strategic alternative to Panama Canal, mainly for the big ships, large ships. They can't go through the Panama Canal, so they pass through the Magellan Strait, Strait of Magellan, which is a strategic part of South America, and which links Atlantic to Pacific. So we can see South America as a great melting pot of races, colors, and cultures. And not just the Spanish people and Portuguese people went there. We have a lot of immigrants from Europe, mainly in Brazil. Brazil has the largest Japanese concentration of people outside of Japan. So it's the word that I said before, diverse is the word to define South America. I think it's important to stress that we are also considered, South America is considered free of nuclear weapons. This is very important. Before the NPT Treaty in 1967, the countries, the 33 Spanish and Caribbean countries, and of course Brazil, they signed a treaty and agree to consider the area free of nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction. So this treaty, it's very important for the region to grow stability. But despite being a peaceful region, South America has also some sources of tensions. And I would like to show you here some probably source of tensions in South America. Let's begin here in Suriname. Suriname has two problems with its neighbors, border problems. Guyana has a problem with Venezuela here. Venezuela has a problem with Colombia. It's a maritime border, which is not solved yet. Here we have a question concerning the outcome of War of Pacific between Peru, Bolivia, and Chile. Here there is another possible source of tension is the border between Argentina and Chile, and also a case of rural immigration between Brazil and Paraguay. We are going to talk about each of one. The question in Suriname is right here. The problem is, here's the main river, which is the border between Guyana and Suriname. And at that point, they don't know which river is the head of water, you know? So this area here is under negotiation, and also this area here between Suriname and French Guiana. They don't know really what is the head of water here, what's the main river to be considered as a border, an official border. So it's a big problem, and they have put more emphasis on the question since gold was discovered there. And here, Venezuela with Guyana, and the official maps of Venezuela, you can see a claim zone, zona de reclamação, because Guyana is about 60% of all the Guyana's territory. And also another problem here in the Venezuelan Gulf, it's a maritime limit, which is not solved yet. Here is Los Monges Island, and Venezuela and Colombia, they are under negotiation to define the real limit. And the question here is about also a huge oil reserve in the Venezuelan Gulf. And another point is Peru, Bolivia, and Chile. Bolivia had, before the War of Pacific, Bolivia had an exit to the sea. Now Bolivia is a landlocked country. And it's a national objective for Bolivia to get an exit to the sea. And Peru lost part of its territory to Chile in that war. And Bolivia lost the other part. So it's a very sensitive region, and the questions are still undergoing. So we need to take care. And another point is also in this region. Here is the border between Chile and Peru. They have a question here regarding the maritime limit. The red line, Peru wants to be the blue line, and Chile wants to be the red line. So it's an area about 28,000 square miles, which is under negotiation. And it's a sea area, but it's a huge area. So they are negotiating, but not still solved. Let's go ahead. Another problem is between Argentina and Chile. They agree that the borders would pass over the highest mountains, the highest peaks. But there is a problem here between Mount Fitzroy and Cerro Muralón. The border is not well defined. So maybe a source of tensions between Argentina and Chile. This is a great and huge social problem between Brazil and Paraguay. The Brasiguaios. I don't know if you heard about, but from 1960, Brazilian farmers crossed the border to Paraguay to find lands to be bought, to buy lands for grow soybean. And at that time, the Paraguayans who were the owners of the land, they sold the land to the Brazilians, and the Brazilians start growing soybeans. So now we have about, it's 450 Brazilians living inside Paraguay. This is a huge problem. It means about 10% of the Paraguayan entire population. And it's a social problem because up to now was going good. But the problem is that some Paraguayan landless, they are trying to take the lands from the Brazilians, you know? And the Brazilians, most of them, they can't prove that the land was really bought. So it's a huge problem. And we had some violent clashes between landless Paraguayans and Brazilians. And the problem was aggravated when the dam of Itaipu was built, because the waters covered more than 1,350 square kilometers, and the farmers who was living around, they had to looking for more land to plant soybean. So Paraguay now is a great producer of soybean, but we don't know what's going to be really. Oh, sorry. Oh, here, some strategic objects for Brazilian strategic objects. I think the first one is to strengthen South America, to integrate South America, because Brazil understands that it's very important for the stability to the area. You can't grow alone. You have to grow with your neighbors. And the Brazilian view in South America now is to grow with its neighbors. And Brazil is trying to set UNASUL, to consolidate UNASUL, which is a union of the South American countries, and having UNASUL as a forum to discuss the South American problems. Even inside UNASUL, there is the Defense Council, which is taking some actions to reduce the tensions. When the countries are not doing so good, the council calls for a meeting, and they put everybody on the table, and they talk about the problems of South America. And another point is to keep security in South Atlantic. South Atlantic is very important for Brazil, because Brazil has 4.8 thousand miles of seashore. So it's important for Brazil to take care of the South Atlantic area. And Brazil works with an organization with the Western African states. And this organization we call ZOPACAS. It's an organization created by UN, and there are 24 states members. And the idea is to have the South Atlantic Ocean in a security way. For instance, there is some important features here. The throat of the Atlantic, it's very important for the world trade, because the lines of communication and the world trade. And here, the passage to Pacific, and from the Cape of Good Hope, you can go to the Indian Ocean and to Antarctica. So it's a very strategic area. And there is a resolution in UN, I think it's 41 in the 2011. 41 resolution is the number of the resolution, which calls the nuclear states not to introduce nuclear weapons in South Atlantic region. So there is a great concern about keeping these areas also free of nuclear weapons and weapons of mass destruction. A little bit more about UNASUL. The region, the South American region, is a peaceful region. And UNASUL has a great relevance for the area right now. And the objectives of the South American Defense Council is consolidation of South America as a zone of peace and basis for democratic stability and full development, and try to construct a South American identity. This is also very important. Some ideas about the NPT treaty. Brazil seeks to have a more proactive participation in the international negotiations involving disarmament, non-proliferation, and also control of weapons. So Brazil understands that some credible and also some credible and realistic measures could be adopted to build more confidence among the countries. Like, for instance, more transparent inspections, and you have a lot of ideas to build trust, to build confidence among the countries. And I would want to call your attention here, the arrangement between Argentina and Brazil. Argentinian agents and Brazilian agents, they set an important agreement in the nuclear area. So ABAC is the organization that was created, was an unprecedented action that subjects Brazil under three international organizations in terms of nuclear program. The ABAC, which is together with Argentina, NPT, which Brazil has ratified, and also the Tlatelolco Treaty, which I talked before in Mexico, when all the South American countries and Latin American countries has signed the Tlatelolco Treaty. Okay, let's go ahead. These are some ideas of Brazil profile. Brazil has a solid tradition of peaceful solution of conflicts. The last war that Brazil took part was the Second World War, when Brazil sent troops to Italy to fight beside the Allied force against the Axis. And commitment to international law, advocate legal equality among states. Brazil has solved all its problems with borders in a peaceful way through diplomatic means and international arbitrage. So I think Brazil has credentials to work as a mediator always. And the goal is consolidation of South America as a zone of peace and base for democratic stability and full development. Brazil understands that it's very important, the cooperation. The word is not leadership. The word is partnership. So the cooperation is highly important for Brazil right now. How to live with all the other states in South America. Even in terms of defense, there are some very interesting initiatives. I could give you two examples. UNASUL has had the initiative to create a school in Buenos Aires. So the militaries from the other countries is coming to Argentina. And Brazil is offering military courses in the War College, Brazilian War College. So they are trying to sit together, and there is a kind of diplomacy among the militaries. The maintenance of regional stability and the construction of more cooperative international environment. Conclusion, we're almost there. Brazil works for the construction of a more participative and inclusive world, community, in a multipolar cooperation basis. South America is clear, there is a clear trend towards cooperation, we said about. South American integration is the priority for Brazil. And Brazil must contribute in favor of a multipolar and cooperative environment in accordance with its historical defense of international law and diplomacy. That's what I have prepared for you. Hope we could give you some more information about South America. It's a great region. We have some people here that work there. Neil was there for a long time, and Dodge was there also a little time, but it's a great area. And I think South America is America. And we know that America was made to be free of any kind of dictatorship. We are having some problems down there with some governments. But I think people are able to recognize when the government is doing wrong. That's my view. And, you know, socialism, in fact, it lasts up to the end of the other people's money. So, but you can implant socialism in two ways: by force or by understanding. If the people wants to have a socialism regime, by love. You can have socialism by love or by force. No? But I think it's not the vocation right now of South America, and we have democracy as our primary value and freedom, and I think it's going to be like that for the future, and South America can give to the world a great benefits in terms of natural resource, in terms of food as a world supplier, in terms of water. So that's it. Thank you very much. One more.
We have just a few minutes for questions. Be willing to take a couple of questions? Please,
Yeah.
if you'd like to, please
We
come
can do
over
that.
to the
We can
microphone.
try to answer.
And tell us your name and what you're studying. We'll see if we can get a couple questions in before people have to leave for class.
You're going to do in Portuguese, no?
Yeah, so my name is Igor. I'm a finance major student. And the FARC, as Forças Armadas Revolucionárias da Colômbia, they have been a huge problem in the area for decades. And I would like to know what are the official Brazil stands and what official actions Brazil took towards this FARC.
FARC, okay. Good question. The FARC is a movement. You know, when we had the bipolar world, the world was bipolar, remember? United States and Russia and Soviet Union right now. And there was a war. They were trying to conquer all the countries to their sides. Each side wants to take the countries. And in South America, there were clear movements towards communism. And we had some movements, ideological movements, to take over the power in some countries. Brazil had Argentina, Chile, and we had a time with the militaries who were in power. And after that, the movements finished their intentions, and some of them still remain trying to defend another kind of they change ideology to drugs. So FARC is a movement that is still there. It's a remaining movement from that time. But, of course, it's not good for Colombia. And Brazil is trying to support the Colombian government. And even we are helping them with some military means, like, for instance, helicopters to rescue the reféns. And they are trying to make negotiations in Cuba right now. The FARC is trying to negotiate with the government. But the FARC is reducing its activities. We know that. And I think the problem now is not more ideological, it's a kind of economic problem. Colombia is still a great drug producer, but I think the problem is going to be solved. That's my hope.
So my name is Amanda Gatch, and I'm a freshman here studying international relations as a major. So my question is, we talked a little bit about like the water resources that Brazil has and how it has many freshwater resources. However, I've read like recent articles that some of the water reserves in southern Brazil have been low recently, and they've been struggling to provide the citizens of São Paulo with freshwater resources. Also, I have family in the northern part of Sertão, and my uncle has been struggling on his farm with droughts over the past like decade. So I'm just wondering what is being done because there's so much freshwater resources in Brazil. Like, why is this a problem that is seen by the government? Is this a problem that is recognized? And if so, what is being done to solve it?
Okay. We had a rain season in São Paulo, which we have a shortage of rain, and the reservoirs were almost empty. But we are not using the water from the aquifers that we talked about. The aquifers is a reserve. The water is underground. It's not so easy to take the water from the ground. But what I was trying to say is we have a reserve. And another point is the technology is allowing us to use the seawater. And for a while, but it's very expensive to take the salt from the water. It's still expensive. But up to now, the water problem has been solved by the governments. We don't have a huge lack of water. It's just for some time. But you are right. When you talk about water, it's a real fact that it's a natural resource that's gonna finish one day. And we have to be prepared for that. And even we can store water for the future, but we won't get there yet. Maybe some more years ahead, and the world population is growing fast, and maybe you're gonna have to take some more effective actions to solve the problem of water. But what I am trying to say is that South America can be a world supplier of fresh water.
Last questions? If not, please join me in thanking General Julio.
Thank you.